Find yourself awash in the sea of our tunes. Badusai the Manslayer, he's a legend. Welcome everyone to Rhythm Encounter 25, our official quarter century. The podcast is now almost as old as I will be in 10 years. All right, well, Mike, when you edit this, add some crickets in. Joining me today is my co-host.
That's me. I'm older than 25, so yeah.
Shh, you don't have to tell anyone. Just lie like I did.
I like to be honest. Besides, 30's the new 20 is what I've been told. Anyway, I'm Caitlin Argyros. Link is there on the boards.
Also joining me today, us, is the perennial co-host, who at some point we should just upgrade you to a co-host, but then we would need to come up with a nickname for the next person who is also with us today, ?
No, I'm okay with my co-host title. I think I've finally grown into it. I'm used to it now.
Yeah, it was mostly lip service. I'm never taking that title away from you.
Oh, okay.
Our chocolatey co-host.
Yes.
So
his name is?
I'm Mike Salbato, Mike on the boards.
And finally, an all-new, all-exciting superstar guest from the frigid Northlands.
Of Canada, Neverland.
Never.
Yeah, not the other frigid north that you're thinking of.
Yeah, not the Antarctic. That's different. That's a different place. That place is warmer than Canada. Oh, I love Canada. I'm just taking it back. Mm-hmm. What's your name? Who are you?
Hi, everybody. I am your not-so-special guest, Stephanie Sybydlo. I am Dice on the forum, and for those of you tuning in on social media, I am one of the people on there, so it's nice to talk to you.
Yes, it is nice to have you here as well. We've evened out the gender balance here, too. So now it's us versus them. We can do boys versus girls now.
A special sexy podcast, if I do say so myself.
I'm going to use my sexy voice the whole time. All right.
Tonight, we are so PC tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Final boss themes.
for the couple with a very hardcore playlist for while they're making out. Find
yourself awash in the sea of our tunes. Anyway, Stephanie, thank you for joining us, and you do awesome work on social media, and I'm super glad you're with us at the site now, too, because now RPG Fan actually talks to people. That's fun.
I agree. I love doing it. Thank you.
I actually, no joke, and this is perhaps not the purvey of the music show, but I'm going to feed your ego here to embarrass you. But, I actually read our social media pages now, and I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, what are you playing this weekend? I'm like, this is what I'm playing. Wait, this is my website. This is what I'm playing.
Oh, please post. Nobody knows. Nobody knows who you are.
I absolutely do.
Oh, people know him.
Mm-hmm.
He's very important.
20 fans around the world.
Well, I guess
I'm sorry.
Turned it around on me. That was adept. All right. Well, anyway, people are here to listen to music. People, as you may know, at this point, we are in the third of our trilogy of battle theme extravaganza. I said without plural and singular agreement. But yes, we are doing final boss themes today. This is a long-awaited topic that I think I mentioned this in the last episode, but we really did a 3-episode series on battle boss and final boss themes just so that way we could include a few things and use the titles that we've came up with. That's legitimately the only reason it happened, and I don't want you to think we had a better plan. It was
they were very good titles too.
Thank you. Welcome on the show anytime. But before we do that, we're going to do a couple recent tracks. Today, since we have made you wait, well, we haven't really made you wait, but for us, we had to wait a while to record this. This is a supersized episode. There's tons of music in it, and a new guest, and all kinds of cool stuff. But first, recent tracks, which Mike picked, so I'm going to make Mike introduce them. Except for the last one, which I will do.
Yeah, please do the last one, because I can't. All right, so there's been a lot of, really interesting albums that came out. Did these all come out in October?
The first one came out in late September, I believe.
Thank you, Chuck. Thank you. That's our other co-host.
Yeah, that was Chuck.
Yeah.
But anyways, yes.
Yeah.
It came out in September, and then the second one came out in October.
Yeah, just this fall, there's been so many really interesting albums. But the first one, we have the how long have we been waiting for this? The Chrono Trigger.
15 years.
Yeah. The Chrono Trigger Chrono Cross Arrange album, which has a real title, but I can't pronounce it, so I'm just going to call it that.
Steven!
Ruka Kanata no Tokie. It's to the brink of time, basically.
Oh, thank you, but it's much better than Brink of Time. Okay, so from the Chrono Trigger Chrono Cross Arrange album, we have Corridors of Time.
Woo! Woo!
After that, we have the also long-awaited, I think, or was this a new thing?
Well, it was so long awaited that I didn't even know we were awaiting it.
Oh,
But now that it's here, I'm super happy it is.
okay.
I
All
picked
right.
this one, but you can introduce it because I'm making you do that.
Okay. So we also got a new Arrange album for Legend of Mana, and Steven picked. What'd you pick?
I picked Polpota Harbor because that song is awesome, and I have no further reasons.
Can't argue
Good.
that then, I agree.
I
That
don't
was
think
very
we need any more reasons than that.
yeah.
Correct.
That was a very Ron
This is
Swanson.
the original. Yeah, well, it was awesome in the original, and it's awesome in this arrangement, so
Yes.
that's why it is here.
Yeah. Then again, very recently, the Materia album came out for Final Fantasy VII, which was I still can't believe they did this because I think someone mentioned this group of musicians got together back in June and said, "Hey, we should do a Final Fantasy VII album." And then a few months later, we have this 90 track album.
40, or it's something like, I think it was like 70 odd musicians, maybe even more, 4 discs.
Yeah, it's huge. So
And
there-
great.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good songs on there. I just picked Sid's theme because I really like Sid's theme. I think there's a few of them, but
Like all sane people.
yeah. And then the last one, Steven can introduce because I don't have an English name for this track.
So Mike picked this track. It's from a soundtrack that's actually quite solid, and I think the game just got announced for a localized release too. But it's Yoro no Nai Kuni, which is like without the kanji, it looks like it's nation without night. But the track is Hitatsu no Wari mo Mukaete, which is like meet one end or meet a single end or something. I don't know exactly how they would translate it. I don't know anything about the game, but the song is cool, and that's why Mike picked it. So
Good picking, Mike.
yeah, good picking, Mike. So
Not finding the lame tracks for us to listen to.
well, we haven't gotten into the main show yet, but
Oh.
anyways, before we talk further, let's go ahead and take a listen to Polpota Harbor, Corridors of Time, Sid's theme, and Hitatsu no Wari o Mukaete.
I'd leave it behind if I could just change her mind. I can't believe the things that you are telling me, but something deep inside makes me feel this really isn't a paradise. Familiar to me, did you cross over an eternity? We're both so alone, I want that we'd never known. So stay with me before our world starts crumbling, 'cause something deep inside makes me feel this really isn't paradise. I'm falling asleep. All the promises that I meant to keep. The sweetest of dreams was my life just taken from me. If I return, if I could change from what I've learned, we'd never have to hide. Everything would be alright in this paradise.
I have not yet had a chance to review the Legend of Mana Promise album. I could just review one word, get it. That's 2 words. But it's awesome. It's a really sort of jazzy album, which I think really fits both the visual and the sort of oral aesthetic of Legend of Mana. But also, I think it's very cohesive. It doesn't feel like they just sort of picked a couple of styles and just arranged willy-nilly. Like, the whole album, to me, feels like a cohesive unit, and I really like that. In particular, Popota Harbor is an awesome song in the original. All I wrote was, I adore the piano performance, squee, for this song. Because that's basically how I feel about it. Because, it's not just that the original is great, because the original, you have the PS1 synth or whatever, and it sounded good there. But here, I think it's Takudo Iga that was the pianist, and just there's a lot of heart in the way he sort of dances along the notes. It's just, I love it. That's all I got.
And
I wrote down that it was, hi Truck, our fifth host of the evening. I wrote down that it felt playful to me. So, and dancing, like you said, it actually kind of really captures the quality of the playfulness, because the way the piano is just lilting, and there's these great note trains where it just goes up the scale, and it's really pretty. So there's a nice real sense of fun and levity with this track.
Yeah, and it's again, it's sort of it's light, but it's not shallow.
I think what I really like is sometimes when you listen to a game soundtrack, it sounds completely different when you have the game in mind. So whenever I hear Palpota Harbor, I always think of that first story you get when you go there, and it's like a ghost story. You're kind of tracking a ghost.
Oh, yeah.
And so I always hear this kind of like whimsical, kind of spirited away kind of sound on top of the very beachy vibe, kind of drunken sailor vibe.
Drunken sailor vibe.
With a ghost story twist.
He's stealing that for future reference. Like a drunken sailor, and he's like, "Arr, I be stealing the ghost, matey, and he's coming for me booty."
Exactly.
That sort of thing.
So yeah, I always think of the first story you hear when you get to there in Legend of Mana, and I love it. I think it's a great game. I think it looks beautiful, and I think the sound is just perfect for it.
Yes.
That's me.
Michael. What?
Michael.
Your thoughts, please.
I hate going last, because everyone already said everything I was going to say.
Say it again, Mike.
And
so you
better.
like it?
I like it a lot. I listened to the original, like, to compare, because I don't know why. It doesn't really matter how it compares, I guess, but I think this one, I don't know, it's more crisp, if that's a good word for it. But
I think Shimomura, sorry, go on.
Go ahead.
I think Shimomura is really good at making arrange albums, like, without kind of, losing the kind of good spirit that the original had. Because like I find some arranged tracks are kind of like, yeah, it's pretty good, or that's a pretty good alternate take. I find Shimomura usually nails it.
That's almost exactly what I was going to say. I agree with that, because I don't mind tracks that are arrange or remixes that try a different style, but Shimomura, I think, has a really good understanding of how to take the original song, and whether she's going to try something new with it or sort of accentuate its existing qualities, she's generally quite successful with that. I know everyone hates the karaoke megalomania from Live Alive, but I liked it. But the arrangement of the song, minus the vocals if you don't like that part, is quite good. I don't know if she did the piano arrangement for this one, but she supervised and produced the album, and it's like I was saying before, it's just very, very coherent, and it fits well, and there's the piano performance itself, it's like, they're just dancing across the keys, and like I can almost, like, I've been listening to it a lot while I've been working lately, and like every time this song comes on, I'm like sitting there like tapping loudly on the desk and don't even care. It's too good.
You're kind of going up and down the keyboard as well, just.
I'm trying to. I'm just pretending I can still play the piano.
I'm probably looking at you like, what the hell is that idiot doing?
That's how things are normally. That's a pre-existing condition, so.
And then he looks at
That's
the
what I do
screen.
all the time.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, when I'm listening to music when I work out or when I'm driving, I usually try to mimic, like if it's a piano, I will move my finger. Not that I am really good at, fingering. I never learned proper technique. That is my joke, all right? Anyway. Sorry. Hey, sorry, that is actually the term for when you're
It
learning
is.
how
No,
to
yep.
finger something
Proper
out.
fingering
Anyway,
is an important thing to learn.
yes,
regarding
and
piano.
I never learned proper technique, but I played piano on my own for a while, so I try to mimic like the movements, and I usually screw it up because I didn't learn proper technique. But when you hear a good piece of music and you're really into it, it's kind of hard not to like pretend you're jamming out.
Brings out your inner performer.
Yeah.
It makes you go through a corridor of time.
Boo.
Wow. Such segue.
Thank you. Before I listened to the Chrono Cross / Trigger Arrange album, I admit I was a little worried because I liked all of the credentials behind it. But when they released the samples, I was a little worried because it was very vocal heavy. And again, I don't have any problem with vocals, and in fact, quite like vocals. But I was concerned that the album was going to be sort of samey and just way too many like top 20 hits. Because that's really to me what the samples made it sound like. And not that that's an inherently bad thing, but it was not what I wanted. But I think out of context was the major problem with that, is that the samples were taken out of their context because the vocal performances are awesome. Laura Shigihara is phenomenally talented, and as a whole, the album is fantastic. I really like it. I was a little disappointed with its brevity and the fact that 2 of the tracks are sort of songs that have already existed in some form for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But everything on there is great, and this one in particular, I am beyond certain that the internet reception to this, without looking, is why they add vocals, but I think the vocals really accentuate the tune, and this is a song that has been remixed 1 billion times. This is the ice cap zone of Chrono Trigger, so it's not like we haven't heard 4,000 remixes that just do this song orchestrally or do this song with a piano. So I really, really think that the usage of vocals here helps it stand out, and using Laura Shigihara as the vocalist was tops.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's a really beautiful quality to her voice. It's very clear. There's kind of a youthfulness to it that kind of fits the wistfulness to me of the track.
Not to sound cheesy, but very pure almost, just a nice clean sound.
Yeah, which really works with the album as a whole, but also with this track in particular. Personally, I like it when tracks are remixed using vocals. It's usually an interesting way, especially because if it's a track that didn't have vocals in the first place, if they're singing lyrics, that adds a whole another layer to the remix. Is what do they choose to have the lyrics say? I remember, I think we were talking about this off the air, but the Final Fantasy IX OC Remix album, I remember some of my favorite tracks on that album were the ones that got remixed with vocal themes, with lyrics, because it was just such a different experience to hear it being sung and to hear their choice of words to express, what the track is trying to say. So,
to be on and off topic for a second, I love the OC remix, the vocals of both Radical Dreamers and the Robo song. If you guys have heard them, they're really great.
Yes, those are great.
Yeah.
Well, I know of at least one in particular, but I'm not sure if it's the same one, but yes. Although Robo's theme in general is great.
Yeah, you could do anything to it, it'll still be pretty good.
I think vocals are well suited to that song, though, because I feel like we all made up vocals for it. Actually, in my heart, every song from Chrono Trigger, if someone adds vocals, I'm just like, why aren't these just the Gato lyrics? Beat me up and get 15 silver points. That sort of thing. That's
I'm glad we worked together on that one.
Yeah, that was good. That went well. We could probably arrange something. We should do a film together.
Yes. Anyway.
Oh my, yes. Speaking of arrangement albums, we had a lot of arrangement albums today. Sid's theme from Materia. Materia is great. I actually, not that I don't like the OC Remix Final Fantasy IX album, but to me, it falls into, I really appreciate the artistic talent that goes into making a lot of OC Remix's albums, but because they're attempting to do such a wide variety of styles, which is, again, I think a good goal, it doesn't make everything super listenable, and I found that the FF9 album had just a little too much metal for me.
You get some musical whiplash going on almost.
Yeah, it feels like I'm listening to a collection of OC remixes, which is what it is, rather than a coherent album with one guiding aesthetic, or not that Materia is any different, it's a lot of styles too, but to me, Materia just came together a little better.
Yeah.
See, I have the opposite reaction, but
in the case of Sid's theme, we'll get back to that. In the case of Sid's theme, I thought the original material is strong. Sid's theme is great. You know, it's very emotional and it always punches you in the gut, and you're sending a dream into space. And Sid has a cool story. I found Sid's story to be quite cool. And this version just mixes a really great guitar performance with synth, and that to me captures the sort of retro modern nostalgia sound that Final Fantasy VII had even when it came out.
Well said, yeah.
Seven had a very nostalgic sort of melancholy retro sound with its synth, but also was trying to create this sort of modern paradigm with its music, with like all the like Rufus's welcoming ceremony and the battle themes. So I think this does a great job of sort of maintaining the aesthetic of the original.
I always found Sid's theme never really suited his character himself, but I think it's too good that I never even pay attention to that, and I just think it totally works in the context of the game. I love it.
He just wants you to sit down and drink goddamn tea.
Exactly.
And go into space.
Or as the guy from Kingdom Hearts, Sid, would say, I gotta sit down and drink a goddamn tea. I don't like Sid's voice in Kingdom Hearts.
No, oh yeah, it's terrible. Not what you picture. You need like a Dennis Leary type for that.
Yeah, just sit down and drink your goddamn tea. Yeah.
Oh, can you imagine Sid singing the asshole song?
Yes. Yes, I can.
As he smokes and yells at Sheba or Shira.
Sheba.
Sid's an ass.
But he's a lovable ass.
Yes, he's
Lovable
a crotchety old man who gave up his dreams for someone he cares about. So I'm cool with that.
Oh. Alright, and what was the last one? Or sorry, no, Mike. The last guy.
Am I the last guy?
You're bringing up the rear again. What you got?
Mike wants to be the guy.
Oh
I
my.
do want to be the guy. I never thought about that. I never thought about how it doesn't. It's a very kind of introspective kind of song, and then Sid's like, "Yeah, drink your tea."
See, no,
I mean, he has that side of him. He just doesn't really like to show it.
well, that's actually why I like the theme so much,
Yeah.
like for Sid's theme, and not that this is not specific to the arrangement, but it's that Final Fantasy VII has sort of retroactively become the one that everyone is like, it's dumb and stupid and broken, and like, how the internet does these things. We work in waves. And like Sid is a really interesting character because again, he's this dude who was single-mindedly driven by this like engineering dream he had and like his like career goals, and then he like gave up his goal to save this person he cares about, and he's like he cares about that person, but he's sort of pissed about it. Like,
Yeah.
as a real person would be pissed. It's like, yeah, I could have went to space.
Yeah, he's really good between both realms of being pissed and kind of caring.
Yeah, and that's why I think this well, because that's a really human sort of thing to have to do. Is it's like you do have to make choices.
It's like my dad.
Yeah.
Caring
Dad
but
built the
pissed all the
rocket.
time.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
There's a story there. Oh.
He does have a cigarette in his mouth like all the time, so there you go.
Oh, okay. Maybe he's
Does
dead.
he also carry a lance around to like smite enemies with?
I think in a past life, yes.
Why does a man who is clearly an engineer and a pilot carry
Yeah.
Oh, spear.
weapons in the game? Like, why does Sid not have a gun to shoot people with?
Because Vincent did that and he did it horribly, so let him have it.
What?
Ooh, we getting
I'm sorry.
Them's fighting words.
words. We better move on to the next song, or they're gonna fight.
Cat fight.
I still like you, Caitlin.
I should like you too.
Isn't it great when girls get together?
That's okay.
Opposed to
So
when guys get together.
yeah.
Yeah.
I could say so much right here, and it's all bad. It's all filth. The good news is I accidentally listened to Palpota Harbor twice, so I know nothing about the next track. So Mike, fill in.
You're fired. Can I fire you? Is that possible? No, I can't fire you.
Woohoo!
Well, you probably
You
could.
have no
a lot
power
of,
here.
He has a lot of power here.
No.
Yeah.
Yodo no Kai, the song Hitatsu no Wari o Mukaete. I'm only saying that last time. I really like the piano performance. It's composed by someone who I'm not familiar with, Hayato Asano, and it's super chill. I don't know anything about the game, so I really can't speak much to the broader context it appears in. But it's a really cool song, and I really like the music from this game. And I know so little about the game, but like the music enough that I'm like, I should probably buy this. And like I see it in stores in Japan, and I'm like, I should buy that. But then I didn't, because I bought Digimon Cyber Sleuth instead.
Can you buy it and let me know
What are
how
you,
it is?
12?
Yeah. Buy it for your people who need you.
And then send it to you?
No, just tell us how it is.
White people in America?
Oh, okay.
It's RPG fan people, both staff and readers.
Hey, remember when Digimon played Kids in America in the localized movie? That was pretty good, right?
No.
Oh yeah,
Angela Anaconda brought it in.
it was.
Dark times.
Wow.
I'm derailing us here, but yes.
All right.
Cool song.
Yes, the song. I wrote. This is one of those tracks that makes me want to play the game because that's what it is. I heard this and it was so pretty, and I was like, I'm suddenly instantly interested in the game and the rest of the soundtrack because of this one piece. So, which happens a fair amount, especially on this show. I know from personal experience, and it's always a cool thing. It's like, hey, that was pretty awesome, and now I kind of want this for no other reason than because it has good music.
Yes, I've done that before. I've bought a game because the soundtrack impressed me.
Yeah, I've never done that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Ah,
That's most of the games I buy now.
really?
Well,
Any recent one? Or any one you could give an example?
Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth.
Fair enough.
It's
Moving on.
Masafumi, I can't remember the last name, Okuda. It's the composer of Danganronpa, and it's a very similar sort of.
Cool. Okay.
It's we actually have a review of the music coming, so I will leave it to Neil to speak it much more eloquently than I could because Word don't do good. But
Yes, he
cool
loved
stuff.
it.
But let's move on to our supersized show today.
And I'm starting us off with our first block. I picked Hyron from Deus Ex Human Revolution. It has an official track on like the extended official soundtrack that they released that still isn't nearly as much music as actually is in the game. But I didn't
Stop doing that, developers.
Right, seriously, stop it. I didn't like the way they arranged it. It's they kind of all of the music in the game has layers, and the way that they arranged the
ogres.
layers didn't really sit with me. So this is like straight from the actual game, which is why I'm just calling it the name of the boss, which is Hyron. It's an awesome.
That's why I couldn't find it on YouTube.
Yes, I am sneaky like that. Very sneaky.
I don't know what to say. Oh, I cussed, I'm sorry.
That's it. You're off the show. No, well, we just have like a virtual swear jar. You just need to put like a dollar bill in there, and you're good.
A Canadian dollar bill, please.
Worth nothing right now.
Oh,
10
good.
Canadian
We'll get
please.
70
Damn
cents.
it!
All right, so that was my pick, and then Mike, I think you're next. Yes.
Yeah, I picked Unseen Abyss, the final boss from Final Fantasy 13-2. And
Good
I wanted to talk about what the boss is, but I don't think everyone here knows, so I won't say what the boss is, but it's a cool fight and it's a cool song. And Steven has
I want to
that
say
one.
what the boss is. I actually had a comment, but no.
Spoiler alert in 3, 2, 1, go.
Snape kills Dumbledore and Aerith dies.
Damn. Oh my god. Ruined the franchise for me, thank you.
I actually think that the people who Snape killed Dumbledore back in the day, they're my least favorite humans on the planet.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't spoil it for me, but if they had, I would have started a quest not unlike Lord Voldemort's to destroy them.
Okay.
Anyways, my track is from a game I've never played, but it is from a series that I've sort of been dipping into a little bit. So the Mystery Dungeon series, my first go at it has been with Etrian Mystery Dungeon, which I really, really like. I love the Etrian series, and I'm getting more and more into the sort of roguelike style. And although the Etrian one is probably a little lighter than your average roguelike, it's pretty forgiving. The track I picked is from Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Explorers of Sky, which don't know anything about it, but clearly it's popular because they've made several of them. And this is Dialga's fight to the finish, which I guess that might spoil the final boss of the Pokemon game. Sorry. As all the Pokemon fans write to me, and they're like, the bosses are actually good. They might actually be good. I don't know. I could be wrong. But anyways, the song is cool, and I picked it because it's very interesting, and we'd never had this game on there. And I spent a huge amount of time listening to Final Boss playlists to find just the right selection that was not one of the 4 that I wanted to pick, which was the Final Boss song to every Kingdom Hearts. So that's my pick.
Boo.
Excuse me? Did you just boo? Or are you booing me not picking it?
I said boo earns. Anyways, so
Earns.
I picked Finish the Promise, which is the final boss theme from Tales of the Abyss. And it is excellent. And not done by Motoi Sakuraba, so that's kind of cool.
It's
You would think it would be.
It's done by
Moto Fujiwara.
Fujiwara, who is the lead vocalist and composer of Bump of Chicken, who did the opening song for Tales of the Abyss.
Which honestly, I just think is so cool.
I agree.
It's a nice little
You had an
opening
actual
close
rock
package
star.
there.
Yes, bookends, if you will.
I think he also did Meaning of Birth, which was the arrangement of Karma, the main theme.
Oh, yeah.
Which plays
He does-
the fight with Ash.
He does
I'll
basically
definitely get
all
into
of
that.
the final boss themes in the game, which all 3 parts of the final boss fight, and then when you fight Ash. So
Tales of the Abyss is still my favorite Tales, so we should definitely discuss this further after we listen to Hiron, Unseen Abyss, Dialga's Fight to the Finish, and Finish the Promise.
soundtrack, it starts off rocking and it just doesn't give up. You got that really big booming bass, and the drums are just going at it. I love how it just starts off like that. And you've got to love the vocals that Michael McCann uses throughout the soundtrack, and here especially.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to agree with you. I agree.
Yeah. Well, because everyone should agree with that statement, because his vocals are awesome.
Correct.
She said without a hint of ego.
Well, yeah, but you're correct, so you shouldn't be.
And then you've got, I don't know how to describe some of the elements of the song. Like, there's this electronic going on that I love. It brings in that sort of techno aspect that fits the game, given the the setting of all augmentations and whatnot. I love that as it underlays the track.
There's a real cool sense of urgency in the song, like it kind of keeps you pumped, good for the atmosphere.
Yeah, I really like, it works in a little bit of the main theme. You get the vocal from Argyros, you get a little bit of the main theme of the game as well in there. And the synth, that part that I think you were trying to articulate, Caitlin, that synth is very Deus Ex. That's sort of a sound that's been present in the series for quite a long time. It's very like 1980s hard tech sci-fi type sound.
Yeah.
It's the kind of stuff that you would hear in a lot of 1980s hard sci-fi films. And that's part of the reason I also love Human Revolution's music, is just the vocals are used so well for such good chilling effect that gives it this weird sort of isolated but also human quality.
I actually wrote to that effect too, was that, I like the fact that it was just a nice, soothing vocal. It's not like a lot of final boss themes. It's not like a big, giant, epic Latin choir like, sorry, Steven, but Kingdom Hearts usually does.
Well, no, and that works for that series, I think. But for Deus Ex, which is the whole game is about this fusion of like humanity and technology. So you have this very distinctly synthetic synth, and then you have the human vocals, and then you have that like heavy bass, which I always love heavy bass. So it comes together really well. It's only a shame that the final boss in Human Revolution is brick stupid, because awesome.
More time to appreciate the music.
Yes, which is awesome. And so the entire game, the music is layered. So you'll have like a bass track and then some stress music that comes in when you're near enemies. And then if you get into combat, the drums start up, and the boss fights are like that too. And on the official soundtrack, which is still woefully incomplete, they tried to layer them, like one layer and then add another layer and then a third layer, and just, I don't know, it doesn't work for me as well, because you don't start off with that big booming bass and the drums right at the start. I mean, it kind of grows into that, but it takes a couple of minutes, and by the time you get there, you're kind of like, okay, so I guess I've heard this before.
Yeah.
Whereas with the way, with having all those layers together at the start, you had that wonderful energy right off the get-go, and you're just ready to go. So, long-winded explanation for why I chose a custom mix and not the track from the official soundtrack. So.
Well, I think it's funny because it's I said it off air, but it's pretty similar to what I did on, well, now I don't know which episode it was, but whatever episode it was, I played the Phantasy Star Online 2 song, because the one on the soundtrack and how you hear it in game is very different. So like the soundtrack one didn't sound exactly like what I wanted. Like I liked specifically that version, that rip I heard, because it's dynamic how it plays in game.
I think that's sort of not the danger, but when you have, in games where a lot of games tend to use dynamic generation of their audio, where the composer has done each track separately and then the system is sort of creating what you hear in the game based on context. It can be so really difficult. It's awesome. It just, you sometimes run into cases where then they produce it for the soundtrack and it's not the way you recall hearing it in the game, and like the flow of it is different, and that can sometimes be a bummer, which is a shame, because it's like your option is to either record it directly from the game, which is not necessarily what the composer wants people to hear, or you get the produced version that sounds different.
Yeah.
PSO 2 is especially guilty of that on its official soundtracks, because that game is very dynamic in how it generates its music, which is great in the game, but
lost in transition.
Correct. Speaking of lost in transition, how many final boss themes does Final Fantasy 13-2 have? I feel like we've played like 10 of them.
No. I play music. I pull music in from the game all the time, but there's
like, is it Heart of Chaos? Is it Invisible Depths? Unseen Abyss? Oh, this is the same song.
I think it's like part of the
it's
multiple
a different
endings.
translation.
Heart of Chaos is the second to last boss.
Okay.
This is the final boss.
Yeah, and I was really torn between them, but I think that I end up cheating way too much on this show. I always bring in something that's sort of a final boss for a boss theme, and I bring in something that isn't technically correct for the topic, but you guys let me get away with it. So I figured if I'm gonna go between the final boss and the sort of final boss, I'd not cheat this time and use the actual final last finale.
You know what though? That's so fair though. Like I remember Neil commented on this once, where he like doesn't like One Winged Angel as much as the boss theme, that song that plays just before it.
Birth of God.
You know, and so like
Birth
you know
of
we
God,
can't
yeah.
penalize you. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
great
can't
song.
penalize you for that. And to be fair, I think Unseen Abyss is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike, I love that you picked this because this is one of my favorite final boss themes, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really, kick-ass. I say it a lot, but that's true here. It's got this wonderful, I love the pace of it. It's a very kind of a racing pace to it. You feel like
It really matches the battle system, you know, like that kind of, you know, go get 'em battle system, you know, the beat of the battle system.
Yeah, you can't take your time with that system. You're supposed to go on the offensive, and if you don't time things right, you screw things up. So, and that
You get turned into candy. Wait, that's a different game.
You know, I even like the dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of reminds me of something I'd be hitting up in theater rhythm.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
love
like that game.
the pulses, the electronic elements throughout the boss battle, which is nice.
It's excitable.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's
it kind
different
of shocks
from-
you
we were-
awake.
We were just talking about having orchestral choir style final boss themes, and this is pretty different from that sort of expected symphonic epic sound, but still epic in its own way.
Yeah.
And it helps that it has a reference to the main bad guy's theme thrown in there too.
Yeah, see
I
that's
feel
what
so
I
bad.
love.
Yeah, why did you pick it?
That's what I love about that whole soundtrack. They're really good. It's actually what we always talk about with Heaven's Words. That's a weird word to pluralize. Music is that it's very cohesive. There's a lot of themes in 13 too that you'll hear like in a couple different tracks, and I do like that in this one that you hear. I can't pinpoint it, but other themes in here too.
Yeah. And I mean, okay, we didn't want to spoil what you're fighting, so in as non-spoiler terms as possible, it was an awesome final boss fight. I mean, it's not the first time we've seen the thing that you fight, but it was a really cool, I think, way to finish that game.
Well, yeah, but you don't usually see 3 of the thing.
Yeah, well, we saw
My eyes were
3
wide
of the
open,
thing in one game. We saw it in Final Fantasy VII. Not together.
Well,
but-
that's what I mean. Like it's pretty intimidating when you get there, and it's like, oh, yeah. Like I guess I can fight all 3 of you at once.
And you have to, otherwise
You've
you
come
die.
this far, yeah.
Yeah.
Do or die. And yeah, definitely, good cohesive, great energy. It's a damn good choice, and I'm sad I didn't pick it.
I'm glad Mike picked it, because that meant I didn't have to pick it. Because I do, my initial comments of why there's so many of these sort of belie the fact that I also think they're all awesome, so.
Yes. Would you have actually brought it up if you think one of us did not pick something awesome? Would you be like, you have to rethink that? I don't like it.
I do that all the time anyway. I've had every selection on here. And nobody knows. That's not true.
Okay.
Speaking of vetting things that I know nothing about, Dialga's Fight to the Finish, which I might be mispronouncing that Pokemon's name, but sorry if I am. I picked it basically because it really reminds me of Wild Arms. It's airy, fresh, and very fun. It sounds like a finale song. It's not so light that you would confuse it for something earlier in the game. It definitely sounds like a showdown type thing, or like this is the culmination of the game. But it also feels light and sort of like, I imagine fighting in the sky. That's what it honestly seems like.
When you put it like that, I think I understand it more as a final boss theme, because when I heard it, I was like, oh, that's a final boss theme?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so lovely.
I have
It's so
one.
pleasant.
I have one note on this track, and it's that this is the happiest final boss song ever.
Yes!
Really?
Yeah.
You don't think that one who bears fangs, a god, is happy?
Kind of, but it's still a little ominous.
Why does that sound familiar?
That is
Is that
the
what it's called?
final boss theme from Xenogears.
Oh.
Yeah. No, this
Wow,
isn't. There's no ominous anything. This is just like happy good times.
I do like happy good times.
I do like it. I do
Good
like it.
times.
Which
That should be the title of our podcast today.
Good times.
Happy good times,
Happy good
boss
times.
themes.
But this is an interesting discussion, I think, to sort of an interesting dichotomy between final boss themes that are very serious, Doom-like, or in a minor key, and
Darkness
versus
of the
ones
Unknown.
versus like ones like this that are upbeat, positive, and happy. I also wrote that it was happy. I see a lot more of the former than I do the latter, but I always like seeing, or hearing, sorry, proper words here, hearing these kinds of songs too, just because it's nice to break up, all the doom and gloom of, oh, awesome, epic final boss that's going to destroy the world. Let's just have fun fighting him, okay?
You need a few skits about cat paw pads before you have the skits where Van talks about cloning the planet.
Oh, nice segue.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I picked Finish the Promise from Tales of the Abyss, and like I said, I think it's I think it's really cool that they did not have Sakuraba do the final boss theme, but they actually got their, the rock star. So a bit of the background of the song is, it kind of incorporates a lot of Tyr, the main heroine's song, into the game, and kind of gives it a really nice upbeat spin. And for a boss theme, again, I don't think that's something you hear often, is that sort of upbeat and confident sound. Usually it's always that kind of epic Latin chanting, or if any of you guys remember Lost Odyssey's final boss theme, which is just chaos. Thank you. But one thing I like is, because it incorporates, Tyr's song in a final boss, it just has personal written all over it. Because it's a very personal final fight between, two siblings, somebody you really understand throughout the entire game. So I just thought it was a really cool choice. It's very catchy too. So, yay.
What I really like about it is that it has, like you said, all the phonic hymns, and so it that is a type of sound that you've been hearing throughout the game, because every time Tyr casts a spell, if you're using Tyr, obviously
You hear it,
see
yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But then it really does thematically tie the whole experience together, because it's a personal fight for everybody involved, particularly for Luke and Tyr, which is why you should be using Tyr. And it also, like you said, it's not light, but it's more upbeat, and I like that, because by that point in the story, the final boss fight is sort of the only obstacle between, the world saved and world not saved. But, Luke's character arc at that point is sort of finished. Luke is now
because
no longer a giant bag of dicks. He's now a nice guy.
Well,
And,
the big theme in that game is, to find the meaning of, one's life. And so I think by the end, the whole main party has it figured out. They've come over their own personal trials and all that stuff. So it is such a confident sound. Everybody's fighting for what they believe in. As cheesy as it is, it really makes you feel it when you're fighting it.
Absolutely. I agree. Great song. And good pick. That's, I've said this before, but it's my favorite Tales game, and I love it.
Totally.
I was wondering about that, because I noticed somewhere, it's about in the middle of the song, there's this kind of, not victory, but it is kind of an...
It does sound victorious.
Yeah, not the whole song, but there's parts of it that do, so now I understand why it sounds like that. Yeah, that's cool. I guess I should play that game, huh?
Agreed.
Yes.
That game is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Everyone should play that game.
Also
One of
correct.
the
As
better
far as
Tales
story
games.
go, yeah, it's the only time that Tales really tried for a good story, and they totally succeeded.
A lot of people don't seem to think that, and I'm glad that we can agree that they're wrong.
Yeah,
Yes.
Because
No, they are.
every time somebody writes about that, they're like, "Yeah, it's just got a bunch of jargon and it's nonsense." I'm like, "No, there's hardly any jargon in it." Yeah, you have to know.
it is.
You have to know the score and phonic hymns, but the usage of proper nouns does not damn a narrative into convolution.
And there's not even that much happening in cutscenes, but they still manage to create a really good, strong narrative in it. Unlike, I think, a lot of recent Tales games, which kind of prioritize the action in a cutscene than what's being said, so they tend to be shorter and less explanatory.
I agree, and I think I think they also did a good job tying the characters together through the narrative. everybody
Yeah.
in the Abyss feels like they belong together by the end. Whereas, like, again, I know I'm not agreed with on this, but like the last two that I've played, Excelli in particular, is like, yeah, these people just sort of fell together by happenstance, and now they're best friends because we need that for skits.
Or like everybody in Abyss is like a political party member, basically.
Yeah, like everyone is like a pawn or the person playing the chess game.
Yeah. So I
that's
think it's really
Jade.
cool. And that's a good point against Zillia, which is just a bunch of people managed to find each other. Like
I'm not trying-
Jude, most of all, who just kind of lucked out and had his, got horny for a girl one day.
I have not beat Silly. I got to the
okay.
very, very end. And like my thing with Jude is that we yelled at Final Fantasy XII for a character who had nothing to do with the plot being there. Panello and Vaughn.
Yeah.
But Jude is sort of like, yeah, I'm here and I'm not a jerk, so I want to help you. So he helps you, and I like that as a character trait, like a guy who's like, yeah, I'm just gonna help because that's the right thing to do. That I like. I just don't feel like they tied it together well enough.
I liked him by the end. Like, he kind of figures out some of the sciences behind the planet, and he wants to kind of, help using magical video game science. But, he kind of finds his purpose that he wants to help everybody, and that worked, but not the start, where he just kind of follows around Mila. This is off topic.
Very off topic, and I'm not going to engage in discussion because we've had it before, and yeah. But I definitely agree about Abyss being. I think it's one of the best paced Tales games because unlike every other Tales game where the last third feels really off
Yes.
and like filler, like they just had to extend it. Like Vesperia didn't need that last third of the game. You really finished it once you killed Alexei. But Abyss, I thought the last third of the game worked really well. It did not feel like they were, trying to find some mega bad guy that you didn't know existed before and you have to kill. It just kind of kept going in a natural pace. So
That's one thing I like about Tales games is they're pretty good at showing you the enemy very early on and kind of building with it and not kind of throwing in a last-minute surprise.
Yeah, I would say I agree with that. I had to think. I was like,
Yeah,
do
I was
agree
like,
with that? Yes, I do. They,
But like Van, you see him in like, one of the very first scenes of the game, and you kind of follow him in his journey as much as yours.
Sorry, I was just thinking about Kratos and Lloyd and how amazing Zealous is.
That too.
it is very
Zealous.
refreshing though. To like
Absolutely.
not have the big bad be hidden for half the game and that's like, surprise, I was actually pulling your strings the whole time.
Like Necron.
What about? I was just gonna say, what about Final Fantasy IX?
Hey, that was a reference to classic Final Fantasies.
Yes.
All right.
Still came out of nowhere.
Well, yeah, because it was a reference to classic Final Fantasies where the final boss came out of nowhere.
Oh man, the way you word it like that, you can't win against a conversation like that. That or not.
I'm not saying it was well executed. I'm just saying it was an intentional choice. It wasn't well executed, but it was. That was the
I don't mind it. Well, like I said, I liked it because it took, your eyes off Kuja from being the big at the end.
You took your eyes off Kuja's horrible wardrobe.
Speaking of
He was
horrible
sexy for a man.
For a man who looked very effeminate.
Hey, some people like that.
It's true.
Shouldn't.
All right, we are moving so far away from topic. So
Yes, let's talk about I picked the first track in our next block. This is a game that I am legitimately devastated was bad. Because it had like Masato Kato from Chrono fame, it had Yasunori Mitsuda, it had much of the dream team of Chrono Trigger behind it and Chrono Cross. This was in Japanese World Destruction, in the US Sands of Destruction. Sega worked on it as well. And like the game did sort of play like a light Xenogears, but it was badly paced and the combat wasn't fun, blah blah blah. But it never got a real soundtrack release. It got like one sort of limited release, and that is criminal because the music was fantastic. And so I picked the final boss track, The Creator. I don't actually think that's what it's called, but that's sort of appropriate for it, so that's basically what we went with. So I picked the final boss track from Sands of Destruction. Stephanie, you picked our next one.
Yes, the end of the beginning, one of like 40 final boss themes for Wild Arms 3. It's great. That's all I have to say about that till
That's
after.
just what I have to say about that. And then
Forrest
the
Gump.
next thing is the thing that Michael has picked.
Have we played Answers before?
I'm not a smart
can't
man.
remember.
I know what love is.
I believe we played the version from Distant Worlds.
Good. This
So
doesn't.
we played a live version. We didn't play the album version, as far as I'm aware.
Okay. Well, good.
I've only heard the Distant World version.
This isn't the album version either.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I picked Answers from Final Fantasy XIV, although this is a mix that I put together because, well, I'll explain it after. It's complicated. But yeah, Caitlin has our last song.
Yes, the one song that I couldn't possibly go without picking on a final boss episode, which is Battle for Freedom from Final Fantasy XII, because
Hey!
I love me some Final Fantasy XII, I love me some Sakimoto, and this is, well, both of those. So, yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and take a listen to The Creator, The End of the Beginning, Answers, and The Battle for Freedom.
Shining is the land's light of justice. Ever flows the land's well of purpose. Walk free, walk free, walk free. Believe the lamb's alive. So believe. To all of my children in whom life flows up. Now open your
So, Sands of Destruction has great music. It's got that very 1990s, 2000s era Yasunori Mitsuda dramatic flair to it that we all just loved so much and just kept wanting him to keep recreating, that he was sort of adamantly refusing to recreate. And then Sands of Destruction, they were like, all right, we'll go back to super Latin choir dramatic Mitsuda. And it was awesome. It was obviously limited by the DS's sound capabilities a little bit, but I think, it still is quite clear that this is really well-written music that is super epic. It reminds me of Xenogears very much, and I think that's by design. It, again, is sort of sad that the game is garbage, but what are you gonna do? We got good Mitsuda music. If you want more, go listen to Stonebringer. That one's awesome too.
Yes. So my big note here is Mitsuda I've always loved just because I find he's a guy, for lack of better words, who always finds and uses the good notes. And same for this, it's just a very pleasing final boss song. He knows how to create a good emotional melody. He just knows the notes to hit for that. I think Xenosaga really did this well for the few songs that's in it.
Yeah, he knows how to create space operatic levels of drama.
Yeah, I like
that.
Of
the fabric of existence is at risk.
If it could be quantified in a sound, it would be that.
Or that Lavos screech. That one. That one's quantified into a sound too, although an unpleasant sound.
You made it sound pleasant.
Oh, thank you.
Well, that's not crazy.
I'm an evil red star that crashed into the planet. You're all gonna die. I hope we play some more Mitsuda later. Yeah. So.
I don't know. We might be playing more Mitsuda later. Who knows?
I don't. I do know that Stephanie's pick was awesome. Wild Arms 3 is often the one that I wrestle with having my favorite soundtrack in the series. I'm not sure, but if it would be up there.
There's a lot of songs on that soundtrack, so
it's
yeah.
The final boss is so interesting. And
amongst the 13 forms, yes, there's a few magical musical nuggets amongst them, and the one I picked was The End of the Beginning. It was actually my last-minute choice, too, but I really, really wanted to include Michiko Naruke's work, because I think she's great, and I think she was a perfect fit for the series. As far as a final boss theme, though, I like it because it's like a medley and final boss theme, which I think is great when they do that. So you hear a bit of the world map theme in there, and you also hear, the first kind of battle, the first prologue battle.
Yeah.
That takes place on top of the train. You hear that kind of, okay, I'm gonna do it, the boom, kind of sprinkled throughout there.
Yeah. And the whistling, too.
Yes, the whistling. And, I think tying it to elements you hear throughout the game, tying it to a song you hear in the beginning, it creates a good bookend, so like stuff you hear at the beginning and a song you hear at the end. So it's classic Wild Arms sounding. It's got a very sweeping and adventurous melody to it. And, Naruke does a great job capturing that Wild West feel and making it flawlessly work with JRPGs. Yeah.
That is exactly what I would wanted to say. But you said it better, so I agree with that. Naruke is awesome. There's I didn't realize, but there's a Tokyo Game Music show coming soon, and a bunch of people in the video game music scene go there, and Naruke goes, and I'm super excited because I'm going to go meet her and listen to her perform.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
And I'm going to tell her that you think her final boss track for Wild Arms 3 is awesome.
Okay. I don't know why that excites me. She probably won't give a man. I'm sorry. But yeah.
$2, please.
No, Canadian $4.
Yeah, we'll just cover that one up. Okay. Yeah, I like that song. I think we've had Wild Arms 3 on here at some point. I don't know which songs, but...
Yeah, I've had a couple from it.
Yeah, I haven't even heard this one before. I like it a lot. I do like the kind of whistle in there. I'm always a sucker for the whistle in Wild Arms. I can't help it.
Yeah. Well, it's such a great way to kind of set the stage, or to go along with the theme of the game, to have that sort of traditional Western sound in there.
Well, and 3 was the first one that went full Western, and not half JRPG fantasy Western, but 2 sort of got away from a lot of the whistling, and it was very it had sort of a frontiersy feel to it, but 3 got way into like the old.
Everybody
West.
used guns.
Yeah,
like
everybody
said,
used
yeah.
guns. And
One thing I love about the Wild Arms 3 soundtrack is that it has a credited whistler. Somebody with very moist somebody with very moist lips, you know, whistling along to the entire soundtrack.
and doing
That's awesome.
phenomenal job of it.
Wow.
Moist lips sink ships.
Just imagine somebody asks you, what instrument did you play on this
I
soundtrack?
whiff-
You'd be like, I played my lips.
So
Next.
I need some answers.
Okay.
Because everyone always yells at me because I don't like the final boss of the Binding Coil of Bahamut. And I have not played it, but I have seen it. And this song is awesome. And I want to know...
I want to
spoilers,
hear what Mike thinks about it all.
I want to know why I don't get to fight 30-story Bahamut.
Anyways, Mike, talk about it, please. Cut off Steven.
Because logistics.
That's fair.
I don't
that's
know.
probably the real world answer.
I think
Well,
I
okay.
think they could have had you fight a giant Bahamut if they wanted. I think they probably figured it was more interesting to have an actual battlefield you move around instead of having him like hanging off the edge of a ledge or something.
I mean, yeah, you do see.
If you will.
What?
Punching his ankles, if you will.
Exactly.
Biting off his kneecaps, more
Yeah.
like. I mean, you do
Epic.
see giant Bahamut as you're going through the different levels of coil. I mean, part of the thing is he's in the process of being, healing and returning to power. And what is it, like this battlefield, you're not actually fighting actual Bahamut, you're sort of like, you're fighting
Like
inside.
his core. Well, I mean, yeah, that's the thing too. It's like he's not rebuilt. Then we're just gonna spoil everything at this point. But he's not like finished or like completely there. So the idea is you're supposed to stop him from being revived. So if they revived him first, you wouldn't be able to stop him.
Because
Yeah.
the last time he got revived, he exploded out of the sun and murdered the planet and made a much better game.
Right.
Wait, so why don't we want him to get revived?
Is that what Final Fantasy XIV is about?
Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 ended with Bahamut exploding out of the Red Moon Dalamud and nuking the planet.
It's actually
crap.
it's pretty brilliant because they had to destroy the game and rebuild it, so they built it into the story where Bahamut destroys it. So a couple
It's
years
almost a
later,
hilarious metaphor for the first run of Final
It
Fantasy
is.
XIV.
it is.
Yeah.
But, like,
yeah.
Just drop a bomb on it and start again.
Yep.
Well, it also created really interesting lore throughout A Realm Reborn where it's like, yeah, the world was kind of trashed and we don't know how it happened. And also, there's a place called the Binding Coil of Bahamut. We should probably check that out.
Yep.
Wow. Now I know.
Yep.
The more you know.
Anyway, so yeah, answers.
yeah.
Answers is the main theme of the game. It's the opening song, so I think it was really, really fitting that they used it for the final boss. But what they did, and what this song is that you heard there, is they broke it down to like 3 different sections. So instead of playing answers straight through, each of the 3 phases of the fight plays a different part of the song. And by the time you
And
get to
it's-
the final phase of the fight, then it's like the main final chorus of the song. It works so well in the game.
Yeah, so when you play through the battle, you go through the entire song as you move through, and so by the end of it, you've heard, it probably is looped at certain points, but you still get that sort of start to finish without it going through the entire way. Like even in the first phase, it kind of helps the building of the drama of the fight itself, because by the final phase, things are pretty crazy and look pretty freaking awesome too, and it sort of helps that the music has been building along that point as well.
If I could just add, like, I have no frame of reference. I haven't played Final Fantasy XIV because I'm scared of it, of becoming addicted. But when I was on,
It's not easy to get addicted to. You'll be fine.
When I was on NeoGAF, they actually had a topic about your favorite, vocal Final Fantasy theme. And some users got upset because the Answers wasn't a part of it. And so that's when I finally took to listening it, and I thought it was epic. I thought it was just great. And so I like how Answers sort of overnight become the next big FF game theme. That's not Melodies of Life, Suteki Dane, Eyes on Me. And I definitely like that it's a bit of a harder hitting sound, and it's a lot less sappier than the other main game themes. So that's really what I took away from it.
Yeah, it was. I really like Answers, like, because vocal themes I can sort of take it or leave it for Final Fantasy. I mean, I like the classic ones because I grew up with them, and I like Nines because it's awesome. And Answers is much like Nines, just straight awesome. It's worked into the game in ways that make it feel like narratively coherent, and it's fun to listen to. It sounds very Final Fantasy, and that's basically, again, what I think 14's greatest strength is now, is that it's the most Final Fantasy in quite a while.
Yeah.
Really, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would say it has a more interesting story than many of the other ones. 2.0's story, like the core game, is pretty good. It has a lot of villains that they set up and then just kill all in the final dungeon and don't really follow up with, but then they do later. Basically, once they get out of the content that was dependent on 1.0, the original version of the game, it gets fantastic. And Heavensward is like one of the best Final Fantasy stories, period.
I don't even know what that's like for an MMO to have a story.
That's what's
I'm
interesting.
kinda,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, geeking out here now. I'm wanting to play it.
You should play it.
I should, but I'll get addicted.
But that's not a bad thing if it's a good experience.
that sound. If it makes you feel any better, I got quit. I done got quit. Because it does take quite a large amount of time.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm scared of. I really want to play it, but I'm so scared of investing just too many good hours into it.
It is, however, though, the content from the core game is now much faster to get through, because they, tightened it up before the expansion came out and made it faster so you can get to the expansion sooner.
That's good.
So, I mean, you can get through a large portion of it and then get to the expansion, which is... I actually think the expansion storyline takes longer than the base game storyline. I'm trying to think if I have anything to disprove that, but I think it's accurate.
Well, I don't know, because by the base game, if you mean without any of the patches that came out post 2.0, maybe, but with all of the patches after the end of the original main story, I would probably say not yet.
As I like to call them, the FedEx simulation quests with cool boss fights. Hey, I know you saved the world, but I need you to go collect a bunch of nonsense for 10 hours, and then you can fight Shiva. Actually, that's a lie. The Shiva one was awesome.
Yeah,
that was actually the best one.
That's one area in which Heavensward is vastly superior to A Realm Reborn. There is much less of that stupid.
Yeah.
You are the only person who can do this, and no one likes you until you do it, and then they love you, but you still have to go out and do everything by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So
Heavensward does its narrative way better. Not that 2.0's isn't good, but there's room for improvement, and Heavensward was the improvement. Oh, okay. Let's move on. Music.
Okay. So I think everyone knows by now that I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy XII and Sakimoto in general. So I couldn't not pick Battle for Freedom, one of the most epic. We use it all the time, but there's such a cinematic feel throughout 12 soundtrack, and it's present here in this piece as well. I said it before that Sakimoto is great at creating and using themes throughout his soundtracks, and it's really present in this boss theme because you have two of the three main themes of the game: the theme of the Empire, and then just the main theme of Final Fantasy XII that are featured. Once you get through, the first 3 minutes are actually a cutscene. The main battle doesn't start until the sort of the drums come in. You have that sort of military percussion thing going on. But you go through this sort of warped variation of the Empire's theme, these different little motifs that come here and there, which makes sense because you're fighting a man who's at that moment, he's basically the leader of the Empire. And then you shift and everything gets a little bit more hopeful and, well, I don't want to say happy, but there's a bit of a positive, we can do this, we got this spin on it when the main theme of the game comes in. And it starts getting...
Over the mountain.
Yeah.
That over the mountain sound.
Yeah, I love that there's all these different movements in this track. The first 3 minutes is, like I said, cinematic, and it's got there's some crazy stuff going on in that cinematic, and the music reflects that. And then the first half of the battle is kind of like the whole, we're in the we're screwed. This guy is transformed to this really freaky looking thing, and I don't know how we're gonna beat him. And then it shifts, and you sort of are getting to that hero moment of the game where our characters are triumphing over the bad guy. And I love how the track just sort of moves from all those different, from one to the other and back and forth. I have to say, I don't know if it's just me, but when the percussion comes in, when the actual battle starts at about 3 minutes, I am reminded so much of the first battle theme against Ultima from Final Fantasy Tactics. Like, I have to think it was in some way intentional on Sakimoto's part to reference that, because the games are connected by being in the same place.
I get that so much from Final Fantasy XII, where it's like so familiar, so nostalgic. I don't know why, but yeah, just the notes seem to line up in certain ways.
Well, he created a very cohesive musical sort of frame for Ivalice, and 12 is sort of tactics with better instrumentation.
It's sort of like the culture of Ivalice is just not complete unless you got, Sakamoto doing the soundtrack.
Hint, hint. If you ever make another Ivalice game, get Sakimoto, or else.
Yeah. Totally. Basically, I really like the build-up. Hearing you talk about it really helps me appreciate it and kind of think about it a bit more. I complained at first because it was a bit long, but I think it really just flows very, very nicely. The Ivalice world has a really big atmosphere to it, and I think it's very well captured in this kind of final bout.
It is a battle for freedom.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually a really apt name for this final battle. Battle, too. Because the entirety of the game has been about this middle kingdom that is getting stepped on by a much more powerful kingdom trying to achieve its independence. So, very apt title there. I love it.
Yeah, I think you said a lot of good about it. I think you said a lot of what's on our mind about it.
I have to live up to my name as the Dark Souls of Final Fantasy XII, so.
Right. You
And
have 12
speaking-
And I know everything.
I stepped all over your segue.
It's okay. Speaking of living up to your name, Yasunori Mitsuda had a lot of living up to do when he composed the first Xenosaga soundtrack, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
I wonder if that would be relevant to anything that is coming in the future, Michael.
I don't know.
God, you're so bad at this. It's good.
Usually he's...
That's the joke!
He's usually way worse. It could have something to do with the fact that our next track is Last Battle from Xenosaga Episode 1.
There it is.
You mean the only other battle theme in the game?
Yep.
But
Yeah. Is it
Oh,
really?
God, it's so
It's
sad
been so
how true it
long.
is. Yeah.
There's the regular battle theme and the final boss theme. There isn't even a boss
Oh
theme.
God, they use that
So
for the
weird.
boss theme too.
I mean, admittedly, the regular battle theme is way too dramatic, so it works as a boss theme, but we'll talk about it after.
yes.
What did you pick after that, Caitlin?
She's got something coming up.
So yeah, I picked the final boss song theme from Fire Emblem Fates, which I'm very much looking forward to playing very soon, and kind of jealous of all those people who are playing it right now. It's a really cool song, and I just couldn't help but not pick it because I've been listening to it on repeat for most of the past week. So yeah, I had to pick it.
Awesome.
And then I believe, Steven, you had our next pick.
I did. Another game I have not played. And so let me paint for the audience a brief picture. We're picking tracks for this, and I'm like, I want to pick away from my usual selection of Yoko Shimomura because she's the best. So I'm like, I'm gonna go listen to some Final Boss track lists on YouTube, and I'm listening, trying to find some interesting stuff, and I go, oh my goodness, The Day the World Falls, the Final Boss theme from Luminous Arc 2 is awesome. Gosh, this is so good, and I had it on repeat, and I had no internet at the time, so it was sort of just my, terrible phone tethering connection. And so I'm listening, and finally I'm like, I wonder who composed this. So I open up VGMDB, and it's Yoko Shimomura. So anyway, despite your best efforts, Sean, I was correct, and I picked The Day the World Falls from Luminous Arc 2. And then Stephanie picked the last.
I had an unrestrained struggle picking this one. That was terrible. Okay, anyways, I picked the final boss theme from Valkyrie Profile 2 for a bunch of reasons you'll find out after.
Excellent. All right, let's listen to what promises to be a very dramatic selection of songs. Last Battle, the final boss theme from Fire Emblem Fates, The Day the World Falls, and Unrestrained Struggle.
I really love that song. I kind of forgot about it for a while now, and I wish I hadn't. I did forget that it was one of only 2 battle songs.
Yeah, I my comment is, speaking of things that are obscenely dramatic, and Last Battle is obscenely dramatic, and it's kind of a shame because I actually think Xenosaga 1 has the least good finale of any of the 3 games, because it's like, albedo, okay, albedo left, and here's a random gnosis. It's so dramatic, but the thing you're fighting is not, I mean, it's not like it's totally unrelated to the story, but it's not a character you have been aware of.
Yeah.
And that was sort of lame. And I also feel like the soundtrack, Mitsuda probably felt a lot of pressure to basically make Xenogears again. And I feel bad because Xenosaga is very tonally different from Xenogears. Like, Xenogears has a lot of sci-fi and space type stuff going on, but it's also grounded in this sort of like fantasy, quasi-realistic world. So there's like that Celtic undertone to Xenogears that grounds it in a human element, whereas Xenosaga is very sterile. Not in the negative sterility kind of way, but in just very like space age sterile.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very different, and like I feel bad that Mitsuda did not get a chance to create Xenosaga 2 and 3, even though what we got for those was awesome too. But to speak more directly to the song, right around 145 is the best part of the song. It reminds me of Shadow Hearts, and that's good.
Yeah, that's an interesting, like, just talking about the pressures of trying to go off of Xenogears. I mean, the Xenosaga is, it's not directly related because it can't be for legal reasons, but everyone, of course, is looking at it thinking, oh, well, this is a pre-sequel to Xenogears.
What a mysterious thing this Zohar is.
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely there's an expectation that it should be musically similar. And there are definite, there I go, creating new words. There are definite elements of the soundtrack that are reminiscent of Xenogears, although sometimes it's in the same way that it's Mitsuda, and Mitsuda tends to sound like Mitsu, like you would expect. I actually think that all the stuff that was recorded live, all the orchestral things, that sounds pretty distinct to me from Xenogears. The stuff that was done with the in-game synths, a lot of that does sound similar and familiar. So it's interesting to have that sort of break between real instruments and synths and whatnot. I also really love this track, this boss battle. I love the piano throughout it. I'm kind of a sucker for pianos in battle themes, but I like how it starts off with the piano and it's kind of quiet and you don't really get the beat for a while. And when it does come in, it's a really cool way that the beat comes in and then things shift a little bit.
Picks up nicely.
Yeah. And I don't know how to describe this. It's this really tiny little thing that the piano does that I think is so cool. It has a set pattern for the first chunk before the beat comes in, and then once the beat comes in and the pitch shifts, it flips itself. So it's the opposite pattern. And I don't know how to describe it other than to say that's what it does, but you don't quite notice it at first, but when you do, you're like, wait a second, and it's exactly the opposite. That's cool. That was a really neat thing to do there. Tiny little thing. I
never picked up on that, but now that you did, now you got me kind of thinking about that. That's really cool. I've heard the song a dozen times myself, and
there's a lot of complexity hidden in it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think that's what I like about it is that, Xenosaga, especially the first episode, I find deals a lot with sadness and loss, ideas of sadness and loss, and I think it's really well captured in the very kind of somber beginning. I also like that, the chants sound more like a Gregorian chant than just your typical Latin choir. Or just somber vocals. It's very Gregorian. It sounds, almost pseudo-religious, which really works for the Xeno series.
Pseudo-religious does indeed work for the Xeno series.
Oh, yeah.
Xeno.
It's almost a prerequisite.
Mike?
What?
I don't know. What are you talking about it next?
I talked about it first.
Did you?
A little bit.
Can we talk?
Do we want...
I'm giving Mike a segue here. Can we talk about the final boss theme for Fire Emblem Fates? Because, good lord.
Yeah.
Like,
so...
oh my gosh.
I mentioned this off air, but I forget if I heard this first or if I heard something else, but as soon as I heard this track, I was like, I need this soundtrack now. Please give it to me now. Now.
Don't worry, you'll get it in 5 years.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe if
Well,
someone else decides to publish it.
If it's like Awakening soundtrack, we'll get it as soon as it comes out in the West, because that's what happened. But yeah.
That'd be
Anyway,
nice.
so please, I want it. Yeah, this is one of those tracks that you hear it and it's like you could buy the soundtrack for nothing else but this track, and it would be a worthwhile purchase, even if the rest of the soundtrack is horrible. Because
I need to say that, like a song like this, you need to hear it on a very loud stereo so the song can make mad ear love to you.
Yeah, there's a lot of bass notes on that piano. The performance is great. It's super dramatic, and it suits a Fire Emblem game. I could see this being part of the cutscenes and part of the battle, and I like that. Part of me hopes that Awakening's success made them say, give the musicians a giant budget, go and do this, because that's what it sounds like happened. Because Awakening has a great soundtrack. This sounds like the musicians just had free reign to do whatever the hell they wanted.
And what they wanted to do was make an epic final boss theme.
Well, because it still sounds like Fire Emblem. Like, there are a lot of very Fire Emblem passages in this song. It doesn't sound like they got away from Fire Emblem. It just sounds like they were like, alright, we got a budget now. The last game did really well. Waifu Simulator made dollar bills.
Wow.
Well, or Husbando Simulator if you were like me and you married Crom.
True.
Mm.
Because how can you not marry
I
Crom?
sure did.
Yeah!
High five.
Mm-hmm. Total high five.
I only started with the Fire Emblem series with Awakening, really played the way through it. So I was really pleasantly surprised with the Fire Emblem soundtrack. And this is definitely an accumulation of that. It sounds beautiful.
And there are a lot of little interesting things that it does. There's the way it starts off with those vocalizations, and there's something weird going on with them. Like they're not quite in agreement with each other.
Yeah.
It just, then it goes, you have these chimes coming in, and you have more vocalizations that kind of combine and clash a little bit before the beat comes in. And later on, you actually have singing, and it's not, I can't quite make out the lyrics as well as I'd like to. It's a little bit subdued, but...
See, that's the part that I love, is right around 225, the really heavy bass notes on the piano and the singing, the sort of non-distinct vocals are just like, it's like dun, dun, dun. Like, that's so dramatic. I love it.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I know very little about this game other than what we've been told about paths and whatnot and some things, but I couldn't help myself. As soon as I heard this, like I said, I literally would have it on repeat a lot. No matter what I was doing, I'd be listening to it. So I couldn't help it. I had to pick it.
Yeah, I see the box every day in the store. One of the benefits and curses of living in Japan, because Nintendo decided to region lock the 3DS, or whatever we bought it. And it's got great box art, and I'm always like, I hated Awakening because I played it on Lunatic Classic, and that's an incorrect way to play that game, because that's not skill, that's luck. And how well do you know how to game the numbers, and but I keep getting ready to replay Awakening, because I think I'll enjoy it, but Fate's just, everything I've seen from it looks awesome.
And now we know that it has an awesome final boss song. So
it does. Now, see, I'm wondering if this is the final boss theme in both campaigns, though, because there's the 2 or 3 campaigns. So,
an RPG fan preview of an upcoming title. That's kind of fun.
I won't comment for fear of spoilers. I know the answer to that question.
Well, I'm guessing that you separate off and then come back together for the same final boss, but you don't have to answer that.
I won't.
But anyways, the song was awesome. Good call.
Yes.
Also
Thanks.
awesome. Stephanie, we've talked about Sakuraba a million times on the show, and how I think in recent years sometimes he gets a little tired of having to do 4 disc Tales soundtracks every year, and people sort of think he sounds samey. But I think Valkyrie.
Aren't we skipping yours?
We did just skip one.
Oh no, we skipped.
Yeah, we skipped Shimomura. How did you do that?
Before we talk about Sakuraba, which is a thing that will come up later. Yeah, I tried really hard to pick a song that wasn't one of my Yoko Shimomura favorites, and then ended up picking her anyway because secretly her music is the music my dreams would make. The violin should have immediately given it away to me, but that's gets me every time. I really like that song. She is not the only composer on Luminous Arc 2, I really like that song. It's very... I watched the battle because I'm not going to play Luminous Arc 2, because it's a Luminous Arc game and I didn't like the first one. But it's not quite the sound she pulled off in Radiant Historia, but I think it does remind me of Radiant Historia. I think it's a little different, but it definitely
Same era,
has
kind of building off it.
Yeah, and I love it.
See, it's interesting that you mentioned that the string should have given away, because I also did not know it was Shimomura when I listened to it at first, and then I looked up the game and was like, oh, right, that makes sense. Because the not the beat, but like the way the strings are kind of moving the beat along, bump, ba-dum, ba-dum, bump.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
That's also something that she does, at least from what I've listened of her stuff, a lot. So it's like, I should have known that. That does sound like Shimomura.
I knew it by the first few notes, that kind of like xylophone-y, wooden xylophone kind of sound. I don't know, she's been using a sound like that since like Mario RPG.
Yeah, dun, 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 dun. Yeah, I gotcha.
I still liked it though. I thought it was a really pretty song, for lack of better words. I just thought it was nice.
Yeah, the main melody is really great. I love that part.
Yeah, the part that got me most is when it gets quiet around like 110 and it's just the violin, and then it comes back in slowly and relayers everything in, and it's got that synth trombone, I guess. It's that... That part is just... I love it.
Yeah.
She's got the keys to my heart, man.
Yeah, I feel like
ladies.
she's not afraid to do that, to have a little bit of quiet in the middle of a fight. And I like that a lot. I feel like more people could do that, because sometimes that is just as impactful as lots of drums and epic bass.
Pace is just as important in music as it is in anything else, I think. Like, we listened to Darkness of the Unknown, the final boss theme, Kingdom Hearts 2. The very final version of that is not action-packed at all. It's very quiet.
It's sedate, yeah.
It's very Not that there aren't any other composers that do that, but et cetera, Shimomura is the best, and I love her, and everything she does is great. Not everything. Everything. Forget it. I take it back. But,
Wait, it's still not the norm, though. I think that's what's nice about not just her stuff, but that Pokemon one we played. I think it's just so tempting for most, especially for RPGs, when you get to the last boss, like, you have to do something big and loud, and
it's gotta be One-Winged Angel.
Yeah, and even if it's nothing like something else, I don't know. It's just, you don't always have to go that direction, good or not. So I like when you hear something really different like this.
Agreed.
Very much.
I will probably continue listening to this nonstop, as I have, and also now Fire Emblem as well.
So my job here is done.
Totally, we're going to talk about Motoi Sakuraba.
It's almost like you foreshadowed it earlier.
I don't think so.
I know, so familiar. But anyways, so I like the oxymoron of the title Unrestrained Struggle, which is the final boss theme for Valkyrie Profile 2. It sort of really works nicely as a song for the frantic and bizarre narrative, I think, calling it Unrestrained Struggle. I don't know, the game's really weird on a story count. Anyways, I chose this song because I think it's a fun example of what I think a final boss theme would sound like if it was written in like the Baroque era of classical music or something like that. It's like the final boss theme for, like, I don't know, the opera or something. I just think it...
Reginald, take the man to the opera this evening and fight him upon the morrow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I just think the song moves around nicely and very dramatically, and a lot of Motoi Sakuraba's work for Valkyrie Profile 2, it just sounds very melodic and very pleasant, and I could just listen to it again and again. It's gentle in the ears, but not without a good sense of drama and melody, and I just think it sounds nice, Again, like, to bring up Lost Odyssey, the thing is just crazy. I can't listen to that all the time. Unrestrained Struggle, I think, just sounds really good every time I put it on.
I wrote down that actually it reminds me a little bit of there's like a handful of orchestral battle themes in Star Ocean 3 and Star Ocean 4. Because, most Star Ocean games have, the rock guitar, but there is some stuff in both 3 and 4 that is more orchestral. And now that I think about it, also reminds me a little bit of Eternal Sonata, which was kind of a departure for Sakuraba in that it had no rock elements, really, or not, at least on the battle music.
It's great that he does both very well.
Yeah, and I feel like it's easy enough to sort of dismiss the Tales rock ballad, because he does that a lot, and it can feel a little stale at times, but it's not the only thing he does, and he does do this sort of more, well, I keep saying orchestral, but this more orchestral style really well.
Mm-hmm. I also really like how the vocals kind of work in and kind of go with the beat that... I'm tone deaf today, but yeah, I just think it's cool sounding. The vocals work well. They're kind of just, you can't really hear them, but they add a nice kind of background emphasis to what's going on with the music.
Mike, you must have something to say about this.
Mike
That's
is not
all
fucking
I have
profile.
to say. Wow. What?
What? Wait,
Yeah.
what?
Ha! I tricked you guys.
Oh, we fell for it, Stephanie.
Actually, the sad thing of it all is that I've only played the first game. I haven't played this or that other one.
What?
Yeah.
The other one doesn't matter, but this one is pretty good.
Is it? Well, I played this one a little bit. I just never really got far in it.
It's hard. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Which is good. I mean, too many games are piss easy, so I mean, it's great that they challenge you.
I'll at that.
Swear jar.
At this point, I don't know. We need a bigger jar.
Yeah, you're funding the show now.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for coming on and funding us.
Okay.
It's almost
Not-
like you're on a mission. A suicide mission?
Oh, she's segued.
Very
Kaylin,
nice.
Coming up in block 4.
Well, first, what I just said, suicide mission from Mass Effect 2. I was going through my list of what I could pick, and this was always on my short list, and it was really never a question of, will I or will I not use this? I have to use this. It's one of the most epic final boss themes in existence. So, enjoy it. And then I think, Stephanie, you're up next, right?
Yes. I almost want to keep the title a secret just because it was originally the secret track. But I'm happy to say that I...
Do you want to keep it a secret?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, just keep it a secret.
I will kind of give you a small hint and say it was edited for noise. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of softened some of the noisy elements. I swear to God, despite saying that, it's a classic. You guys will know it right away. Literally right away. Because, yeah.
Because you're all well-versed listeners of game audio, because you listen to Rhythm Encounter.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because it's one of the most classic games of all times. Anyway, we also have another classic, especially musically. I love the one coming up, which is Steven.
Nope.
No, it's Mike's.
It's me.
Is it? Oh, sorry. Yeah, true.
That's the sound
right
of the
there.
swear jar breaking to pieces.
So much money for this episode. All right. Yeah, I picked Calling from a Distance from Breath of Fire, Dragon Quarter, because I've been trying to find a good place to put Dragon Quarter music on this show forever.
Good point.
And right now there is a movement on the internet to have the Breath of Fire 3 and 4, I believe, released on PSN. Or maybe it's just 4, or whichever one's not released. So you should go support that movement in addition to listening to this song.
Absolutely. And
But
then...
don't say it can't happen, because we got Mega Man Legends recently, and they said that wouldn't happen.
That's true. I hope it does. And so our last song...
I picked it. So, a long time ago, in a nation far away, or far away from me, not from you, I had no idea what Final Fantasy Mystic Quest was. And I did not play it until far, far after it was past its prime, and I found it to be a fairly whatever game with unbelievably amazing music.
Yes.
And before I played it, about probably 5 years before I played it, I heard on the wild 4 days of the internet an album called Preludio that no one had ever heard of, and I could never find, and I found it on YouTube again, and I implore you to go listen to the whole album because it's awesome. But the track I picked is the Preludio arrangement of Battle 3 from Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, which, for those of you heathens out there that have not played it, is the Dark King battle theme, and it is the only song, tragically, that's missing from Curtain Call, from Mystic Quest,
Yeah.
among battle themes. But it's awesome, and that is why I picked it. So
Just as
let
an
us.
aside to you finding it on YouTube, thank F for YouTube.
It does make it easier to find and listen to music that you may have dreamt.
Never, yeah.
I thought I had dreamt this album and like, nobody had heard of it, and then finally it was like, oh my god, someone has it on YouTube with 10 views.
I have that for a movie, but that's a different topic.
Yeah, I always have a hard time convincing people that they've seen this movie Star Wars that I really like.
Cool.
Cool. Anyway, for our final block of the day, we have the Suicide Mission from Mass Effect 2, a secret song from a secret game that is not a secret at all, Calling from a Distance from a game that not enough people appreciated, and Battle 3 from a game that not enough people liked.
What a great block.
So there's so much there's so many good things to say about Suicide Mission. It's kind of hard to know where to start, but I guess I'll start with the beginning because I love that opening, and I don't even know if it plays at any point in the game because different chunks of this song play at different parts of the Suicide Mission and during the first part of the boss battle, and I'm not sure if I remember actually hearing this part, but it's a really cool way to open the track. You've got sort of the basics of what the theme is going to be, but it's a little bit subdued with some cool synths going on.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I always love that beginning. Whatever synth is in there, that's sort of like a glass keyboard synth or whatnot.
Whatever that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really pretty. And then things are kicking off, and you can tell that it's going to hit the fan pretty soon. And then once the main theme comes in, and this is one of my favorite parts about this track, is how it works in the main theme of the series. Like we heard it in Mass Effect, and it gets reused here. It's almost like this is a remix of that main theme used as a boss theme, which is a really cool way to link that boss battle and the game into the rest of the series by having that theme appear there and making it sort of prominent. And it really becomes prominent after that really cool interlude in the middle where it just comes back and it's blaring and you're like, this is epic, the track. That's what I like to say.
I love this song very much.
Yes.
And
Think about it.
Mass Effect 2 is one of my favorite RPGs ever, and Mass Effect 3's terrible ending has made me forget about that, and I'm a bad person for that. Because it's so good, and yes, it's an RPG, you're wrong if you don't think it is. I say that because it's true. And that game, like, I know this track doesn't play straight through in the game, but the right parts play at the right times that make, like, that game has one of the single most exciting finales in any game ever. Like, it's like Metal Gear 3 levels of, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, awesome. Like, I literally was playing, and when clips of this song would come on, I'd just be like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, just blurting it out as I'm playing because it was so good and the song was just perfect. And then, like, right when you get to, like, the climax of the song, like 3:15, when that choir comes in, and it's like, oh, it's just like, I just think about, I'm Shepard, and I'm vanguarding around, heroically shooting down collectors, and Garrus is backing me up, and it's awesome. And then this particular version of the song, the album version, ends with in a very Terminator-style fade-out, where it uses a much higher pitch instrumentation, and it's great. Just great.
The only possibly bad thing about this track is that, at least in my opinion, well, it ends, but in my opinion, it's a really hard act to follow in terms of, how do you make an epic sound. And not that there isn't epic stuff in the finale of Mass Effect 3. There's some really good emotional but quieter pieces in Mass Effect 3. I still don't feel like there was a track in that game, or really necessarily even an experience with the music that quite matched up to the level of epicness that you get with this track. Part of the reason why Mass Effect 2 is still my favorite out of the trilogy.
I think I like the finality of Mass Effect 3 a lot, and I actually really like Mass Effect 3's soundtrack, although Jack Wall did not compose on
I know.
why you lost some of the tone, because 3 is much more like military, like epic, but there's a lot of great music in that. Clint Mansell, his theme music is fantastic for 3, but I think other than like an End Once and For All and the main theme of 3, which I really like, I can agree with that. Like, there's no finale tune that's this hard-hitting. Plus, 2 is a more consistent game, I think.
Yes, I would agree with that.
2's ending is exciting and fantastic, and Empire Strikes Back-y. And 3's ending is terrible and awful and Troll 2-y. Troll 2 is a really bad movie.
Okay, I was wondering where you're going with that.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
What the hell?
Everyone will get that reference.
Internet troll? I don't get it, but...
Eating her, and then he's gonna eat me! Oh my...
Oh my god!
Yeah, that.
I don't really have much to add. I think you guys really nailed it. It really helps the atmosphere of the game. It is that epic track. It's that signature track in the game, and it just works.
Speaking of tracks work, what would happen if you took the DNA of every living species on the planet, collected it, and then lived in the core of that planet to charge up energy?
I think you get yourself bitch slapped at some point.
Did I? At this point, I think the audience knows what your pick was, Stephanie, but perhaps you could elucidate further for those heathens that don't recognize it.
Yes. Okay, so I picked the very final moment of Chrono Trigger, the Lavos core, the sort of weird alien parasite version of him on the inside with the weird, stupid side enemies and the cool effects. Anyways, this song is really, really, really simple, and I don't know, just for the amount of the big shtick about, Chrono Trigger, you're going across different epochs, across time, across space, and Lavos is just this kind of proper anomaly the entire game. He's not some guy wearing black, who wants to, take over the world or anything. He's just kind of strange.
That guy joined your party earlier in the game.
Yeah.
With his mom.
I always figured that the Undersea Palace track was a good precedence for this kind of song. It's got that kind of techno vibe. Exactly like that, yeah. It's simple, but I like how it works in, the absolutely frightening and very signature Lavos, screech in there. It's a bit of a simple choice, but I don't know, I still think it deserves being mentioned. It's a bit different for Mitsuda, too. It's much more techy.
Yeah, and I think Mitsuda can be hit or miss on final boss themes sometimes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes he decides that air and noise is a good final boss theme. Whereas this, on the other hand, I think it caps off Chrono Trigger well, because it's like you finally discover the true form of Lavos. He's not a giant.
Yeah, how else would you really end it? I feel there's no really other song that can really suit it as well. You can't put a, orchestrated bit in there. It just wouldn't work.
Yeah, it's very it's a good culmination of the different aesthetics of the game.
Yeah, Lavos is just too different, too weird to give the kind of classic Chrono Trigger sound to it, so I'm glad it kind of stands out in a weird way.
Most def.
And me, I have to admit it, but I'm always a sucker for the, what do you call that when the sound is moving around?
Oh yeah, when it goes from left ear to right ear,
yeah,
sound move.
Yeah, I think that really plays into the kind of weirdness of that thing, and the fight.
Well, it kind of sounds like you're shifting through time in that sense, the sound is kind of shifting, and so is the space that you're kind of fighting in.
Yeah.
I guess it kind of works. Yeah, I know. I really want to play a bunch of games right after we log off right now.
I'm gonna go play Digimon Cyber Sleuth.
Welcome to Rhythm Encounter. It is a frequent problem we encounter. Oh, did I just say encounter twice? Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It is 1:30 a.m.
Get it? Calling from a distance. Interesting choice, Mike. Why did you pick it?
Great choice.
Because it's a good song. See, that's the problem. It's so late now. I don't have anything good anymore. I just really like. Why did I pick this one? I like Dragon Quarter music, but
it is really good.
I really dig the organ.
It's a really cool departure from Sakamoto to go to, both. I mean, Sakamoto to go to, this kind of futuristic, techy, medieval version of a series. It's weird.
It's very, Dragon Quarter is very weird, and I like that about it. And it took a very different soundtrack to really fit it. And this is almost not even melodic at all. It's basically just a scary organ and spooky vocals. But it fits.
That's what I like about organ, though.
Yeah,
is that organ is this holy instrument used for churches and stuff, and it's also this really evil sounding instrument when you play it right.
Yeah, it's Phantom of the Opera plays it, and so does Dracula.
Dracula?
Yeah, Dracula loves the organs.
Okay, I don't know.
Mostly the heart, though.
My only comment is interesting, and I think I already said that, so that is how I feel about Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter's soundtrack. It is very interesting. It's probably not a soundtrack that I could regularly listen to. I think I've said this before. If I just need easy listening, it's the kind of music that more demands your attention, which is how I feel about a lot of Sakimoto's pieces, is that they tend to be less here's a melody that you can remember very distinctly, with the exception of Trisection. but they're more pieces of music that have movement to them that you have to focus on.
Well, it's definitely interesting to have final boss theme. I mean, not that having organs in boss names is like
New.
This unique thing, but to just have it be essentially nothing but an organ and choir was a very interesting take on it. No drums, no percussion, nothing more than just organ and choir, and that was kind of a cool thing to hear.
It really works for the. Sorry, go.
Well, I didn't realize it was Sakimoto until I saw the put it up on my media player. I was like, wow, because he doesn't tend to use organ that much in a lot of his music that I've heard. So it was kind of like an interesting choice for him.
For a guy who's usually typecasted for more medieval work, I think it was really cool that he took that one on.
Yeah.
But like one thing I like too is, in the context of Dragon Quarter, that game is basically counting, down or up to like, your life, your end of your life, right? So I think it's a great song to kind of finish off like a final boss. You're almost, your guy isn't doing too well, and I don't know, it's just really works out.
Sakimoto also did the soundtrack for Ikaruga, which is also a fair departure. But yeah, I think he does that sort of tone quite well. And I'm sure he'll be on Vanillaware's upcoming sci-fi game, because Base Escape is usually on Vanillaware's games. So, but yeah, very interesting song. Also interesting is Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, which has awesome music by Ryuji Sasai, and it's just hardcore rockin', jammin' awesome. And I think I mentioned before we introduced the track that it was the final boss theme. It's also mixed with Battle 1 a little bit. The main battle theme, but this song does so well in this style. Like when you get to the main bridge where it's like it has this really great sort of back and forth rhythm to it that just really gets you into it, makes you want to dance or fight a Dark King.
I have to say, the keyboards, like the way it starts with the keyboards like that, it gives me kind of an 80s vibe.
Very much so.
I don't know, yeah, because that sounds like what you would expect, that kind of, synthy keyboard sound.
Well, that was sort of the prolific sound when Mystic Quest was made, and, Preludio is a Dojin album that is very much like, sort of people who probably grew up with that kind of music doing arrangements. So, I think that is probably both by design and a consequence of the people and the time from which it came.
I love the sax that comes in near the end of the track, and I honestly wish it lasted longer because that sax is pretty rockin'.
Yeah. Oh, I love a good sax. Yeah. Oh.
No, that was all.
I was gonna
me
go to
and
my
dirty
point, but I
mind.
wanted to agree.
Oh my god, I didn't even think of that. You guys are bad.
Yeah.
Sax on the beach.
I would drink one of those right now, but that's probably because I would drink anything right now because I'm hungry.
We are
and thirsty.
teaching people all new euphemisms here.
Euphemism.
Mr. Quest did not get much right. It definitely got the music right. And yeah, I totally agree. This is a great final track to end it with.
For shizzle.
It's so funny. I'm trying not to say anything because we talked about this game last episode, but I don't want to repeat myself. I just think it's so funny that this weird little, I think, Steven, would you call it? My First RPG? Has such great battle music.
My first RPG.
Yeah.
Well, it's the sort of case where a lot of games where they're like spin-offs or sort of low impact, like, look at Final Fantasy Type 0. Ishimoto got to do that one, and it's a really interesting soundtrack. And part of it is because it was a PSP spin-off that was sort of low risk for Square Enix. And so in this case, Mystic Quest was like, yeah, well, we're making this little mini Final Fantasy USA, and it's going to be baby's first RPG. So yeah, sure, do whatever the hell you want. And then it was amazing. Although Sasai's style is pretty consistent. He did Treasure of the Rudras as well, I believe. And also, I think Bahamut Lagoon? No. I can't remember.
Same era, different.
But awesomeness.
Yeah. We did it!
We did it. We got through final boss battle themes.
Oh my god.
Our 3-episode block that we started at this point almost half a year ago is wrapping up. We actually, I've it was recently brought to my attention that we got to start planning for Music of the Year. It's going to take a different form this year because I don't have 4,000 hours to edit 4,000 hours of podcast, and I don't want Mike to do that. We're still going to do Music of the Year podcast, rest assured, but we're probably not going to do the week-long feature together with it. We might do, like split it off so that way no one goes insane. But we're going to be talking about that. So as listeners, we would like for you to send tracks you'd like to hear in Music of the Year or your favorite stuff from the year, suggestions for how you would like Music of the Year to go, if you have any good ideas or things like of that nature. Also, do that more generally. Send us your, stuff you want to hear, topics, ideas. Hit us up on
social
Twitter.
media. I will listen.
Yes, you could message RPG Fan, or you could message Stephanie directly on Twitter, right? Or no, or I don't know. You introduce how you would like to be communicated with, the three of yous.
Oh God, I'll figure it out.
You can get me on Twitter, SJMTaylor. You can email me, stephenm@rpgfan.com. You could listen to our podcast, which you should totally
We'll
do.
make like a thing. Maybe we'll make a header on the site and get all sorts of like contact us this way kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot that we have
A website that we can use.
and run social media, so maybe we could do social media, like, what do you want to hear Music of the Year? What was your favorite? Yada, yada, yada. But we're definitely doing it, so that's the point. And please do, we don't say this terribly often anymore, but do rate us on iTunes. I think we said it last time and the time before. Do rate us on iTunes. It keeps us up on the ratings and gets more listeners, etc., etc. Write reviews. Feel free to come onto the message boards and chat if you want to talk about music. A lot of people have joined the RPG Fan forums to do that, and we'd love to talk about music.
Yeah, I gotta give a shout out to Retta, who's just kicking ass on that.
Yeah, Retta has always kept in good touch with us and is like a Falcom expert, so...
Yes.
But anyway,
So, yeah.
Thanks to everybody for listening to us. And
We're all very tired and hungry now.
we're
Yeah.
tired, and hungry, but we're going to stick through to the finale because we picked a great song. We did it a little differently this time. We didn't do a guest choice, even though we have a guest.
Close enough.
But we picked, and I think I'm not going to say what we picked, but I encourage you to listen to the whole thing. Obviously, we went out with the most important final boss song of all time that is totally better than all the other ones, and it's perfect, and you should just listen to it. And it's just, if you don't like this song, I mean, it's probably a mistake on your part. But I encourage you to listen to the entire song, even if you're getting ready to shut off the podcast. I think you should listen to the whole song. How do you guys feel about that?
Woo!
Sounds good to me.
Awesome.
Bye, everybody. It was fun. Hope to see you on the forums and all that, and in the message and the Facebook and the Twitter and all that. Bye!
So yeah, for Mike, Caitlin, Stephanie, and myself, thanks to everybody for listening. And taking us out is the greatest final boss song of all time. Listen to all of it.
Woo!
Bye.
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 So long, farewell,
Farewell,
auf
auf
Wiedersehen,
Wiedersehen, good night.
good night.
Adieu, adieu to you and you
You
and you.
and you.
Ba, 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 ba.